Hi everyone, I'm Zahra, founder of Monti Kids, and this is baby Zaid. Zaid is now 7 months old and he's using level 3 of Monti Kids. So we are here today to do an unboxing of level 3. This is it, and it can be introduced anytime between 5 months and 10 months. And then it'll stay in your baby's play area for many, many months beyond that. So Zaid started using it at 5 months, and he has a few of the level 3 materials in his play area right now. He also has some level 2 rattles, and he even has some level 1 stuff still that he uses a lot. So these materials will stay and grow with your baby. I'm gonna put him down to play in a minute, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the major goal of level 3, which is really to support your child's developing movement. At this time, they're going through a lot of gross motor and fine motor changes. Whoopsie. And also to nurture the cognitive development that's going on. And movement and cognition at this age is so intertwined. They're really not two separate things that are, developed separately. And so to really help your baby's cognitive development, we recommend a lot of time for them to play on the floor. So playing on their stomach, on their back. And we have a lot of materials to kind of encourage and support that. And around this stage is when babies are going to start rolling a lot, slithering, crawling eventually, and the materials are designed to support that process and then to grow with your baby over time. So I'm going to put Zaid down in his play area so we can hang on to his toys, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. Try to face the camera. Hi, yeah. Oopsie. So let's go ahead and open up the box. Every time you open a Monti Kids Level, the first thing you see is a toy timeline. And the toy timeline, we have all the Montessori toys that we offer here, and they're introduced in a progression because as your baby develops their skills, you want to layer on new challenges. So this kind of guides you through how you'll introduce the Montessori materials in this box over the course of 3 months. And then, like I said, you'll keep them in your play area in a rotation for many months after that. The physical box of toys that you get for your child is half of the Monti Kids program, and the other half is really the online guidance for parents. So we send weekly emails that guide parents through every stage of their baby's development and how to meet their developmental needs at every stage. So illustrating how to introduce everything, the research behind it, and what your baby's learning. So I will get started with Montessori toy number 1, which is called the spinning drum. You can see it back there on Zaid's shelf. It looks like this. So it's a really attractive toy. Babies spin it, and they love to watch it turn. And part of the work of level 3 is really to kind of help your baby move through that process of slithering to crawling. And so previously in level 2, your baby was using a lot of rattles. And so we did encourage a lot of tummy time play. And now we want to really start encouraging the pushing up and developing even more of that core strength. And for babies who are sitting already, they love to put this between their legs and play. And so this toy also helps to encourage visual development. We mentioned in the level 1 unboxing that your child's visual skills are not something that's fixed, that's just gifted to them and that they'll be using for the rest of their lives. It's actually something that's very malleable early on, and so the things that they see in those first few months of life really influences the development of their vision. So that's why we start with level 1 with a series of mobiles. And really before age 2, it's so beneficial for children to get a lot of really developmentally appropriate visual stimulation and challenge. Often some children struggle with writing and reading when they get into kind of the preschool elementary years. And sometimes it's not really about the cognitive challenge of reading, it's about the visual tracking that they haven't totally developed. So, so this really helps with that. Let's move on to toy 2. So toy 2 is the rolling drum. As I mentioned, that's actually what Zaid is playing with right now. Let's take a look. This is the rolling drum. Really beautiful. It moves at a nice slow pace when a baby uses it, that allows them to do that visual tracking that I just talked about. It's also really a perfect design to encourage the slithering and the crawling. And that's because babies love to chase after toys, but if something rolls too fast, like a ball, if a ball rolls too fast and too far away from them, they don't put in the effort to get it because it seems really unattainable. So this is nice because it moves a little bit as your child plays with it, as you can see, and yet it stays close enough that they can go after it because they're not, pushing it as fast and as far as an adult would if they were pushing with all their might. So it keeps them engaged and it helps them experience this kind of perseverance to accomplish a goal. And then of course it helps them to develop their gross motor skills as they're working through that process. And when they're crawling, babies who are crawling and sitting love this just as much as the ones who are not yet crawling, because they can, the crawlers can go to it and then use it while sitting. And once they reach it, no matter what stage they're at, it's great for their fine motor skills, for hand-to-hand transfer, and developing their grasp. So that is our second Montessori toy. The basket with balls is the third Montessori toy we offer in level 3. And I mentioned how great it is for babies to have things to chase after. And so that is what they can do with the basket with balls. That process of spending a lot of time on their tummies, on the floor, and moving towards materials is really, it's so beneficial that we offer a lot of materials to support that. So this is how the basket with balls look. They're all different textures, colors, materials, and they're a lot of fun. I think this one has a little bit of noise. So because that process of moving towards a goal is so helpful for the development of their movement, we want to offer lots of materials to support that. And so novelty, so they're not always moving to the same toy every time. They'll tire of that. Giving them novelty and different sensory stimulation as they're working through that process is really helpful. So that's why we have a variety of balls, and they also move differently. They move at different speeds when they roll. Some move on a straight line. Some are designed to move and kind of wiggle as they roll, and so it really keeps it fun and interesting. And we give the basket because it's lovely for a child to have it on their shelf and be able to Zayd is only rolling right now. He's not crawling, but he rolls over to it by himself and can get out the balls that he wants. And we also have added a level 1 ball, the kicking ball from level 1, which is one of his favorites still. So next is toy 4, which is the object permanence box. This is a very, very classic Montessori material. And the way it works is this helps your baby. This is actually best to use when your baby is sitting up, can sit independently. And this helps your baby to develop the cognitive understanding of object permanence, which is that when an object disappears, it still exists. So when a baby is very, very young, they don't have this understanding, and then they go through this cognitive shift where it starts to really click. And so the object permanence box helps with that. When the ball goes into the box and disappears for just a second and then reappears, that helps them to understand this concept. And this is at a time when their short-term memory, their conscious short-term memory is really emerging. And so babies love to play with this. And then the next phase, we actually have 4 object permanence boxes throughout the Monti Kids curriculum, and they're all of varying levels of difficulty. And this is the first in the series. So level 4 has an object permanence box where the ball actually goes into a closed drawer, and the baby has to then open the drawer and retrieve it, which would be very challenging at this stage. They haven't kind of developed to the point where they know, okay, the ball has disappeared and now I can go and look for it. So this is kind of the introduction to the concept. Toy 5 is the Rockin stacker. So, you okay, Zadie? Yeah. Okay. This is our Rockin stacker. It's a really beautiful stacker. Usually babies or children are given stacking toys around like a bit later, maybe after age 1. But the reason that in Monti Kids we give a stacker so early is because it's perfectly designed for very young children. And the design, you okay, Zayd? It's making noises. So the peg of this stacker is, we've designed it so it's graduated, and so the rings don't all fall together. And because of that space between the rings, a very young baby can really grasp very easily and get their grip and then do the stacking that typically is done much later. So that's, and for that reason, we typically just start with 1 ring to make it really simple. So the other thing about the stacker that I love is that it has a control of error, which is present in a lot of Montessori materials. And what that means is, I'll show you, babies will often stack it once they get the hang of it, of just putting the rings on and off. Well, they might do this. The control of error here is that children can see that something's a little off without an adult telling them. They'll start, they won't understand that right away, but over time, as they continue to do this, they'll realize that they can do something differently. Really, it's not a mistake. They learn so much from doing things, in a different way, making mistakes. But eventually they'll see that they can fix it, and going through that process of trial and error and correcting themselves really leads to deep learning and long-term understanding of how to solve their problems, or the problem that they just experienced. So that's control of error that's really beautiful and built into this material. And babies take so much pride in a material like this, because when the rings are off, and they do this by themselves, they've really changed the look of it, and it's really a very satisfying moment for them to see that they did that by themselves. So, are you all right? Do you need some help? You got it? All right, he's okay. And then the last material in here is, you happy? I think his toy was stuck under his arm, but he got it by himself. So this is the last Montessori toy in the kit. It is toy 6, shape fitting. At around this stage of development, babies can start using 2 hands in coordination, and that's something we really want to encourage. And so we have a series for practicing those skills. So the egg in the cup, the ball in the cup, and the cube in the box. One thing I didn't mention is that all of our toys that have multiple parts come with these little baggies, which is very convenient for parents, so you can store it, because we recommend rotating toys and not just putting everything out at once. So I was mentioning the goal of this toy is exploration, and I hate to say there's a goal because they learn as they're exploring, but really we want to encourage this two hands in coordination. That really helps them strengthen the connections between the right and left hemisphere in the brain. Coordinating both sides of their body will help them with their physical development, their reading, their writing, of course when they're playing sports later. And as we mentioned earlier, cognitive and motor development are so intertwined. So that's something that we practice here. And then there's a progression of difficulty with the different shapes. So it gets more challenging as they work through the different shapes. And this is something that babies, that is right to be introduced for babies who can sit really well and are starting to be able to play really well with both hands while sitting. So those are the materials in level 3 of Monti Kids. And I think I'm gonna go and play with Zaid. See you next time.